at Hollywood Smoke in the beautiful city of Santa Monica for another edition of 10 Count. I am Steve Kim, joined as always by the institution Ken Miller, and from Ring TV, Doug Fischer. Gentlemen, April 18th, right in our backyard in the West Coast mecca of boxing, Julio César Chávez Jr. makes his first Showtime appearance against Andrzej Fonfara. You know what, guys? I'm going to be home watching HBO with Provodnikov Matisse.
Is Chavez still alive?
He's still around.
I thought he was dead.
He's been a part-time fighter.
I certainly will not be at that fight on the 18th because I have a high school all-star game that I promote that day. It's called Collision, something you're not going to see when Chavez fights this other B-plus fighter.
Doug, me and you love going down there.
Yeah,
I mean,
the StubHub Center is like in effect, it's for the modern Southern California fight fan what the Olympic Auditorium was in downtown LA for many previous decades. It's
got some
configured
to do to get to the Olympics.
It does.
There's a mystique to that place, though.
It's got a whole lot of catching up to do.
There's no doubt about that.
There's no
doubt about that. But it's configured in a way where there aren't bad seats, and they've had a lot of ring wars.
And by the way, Ken, they could have made up some ground by having Provodnikov Matisse, but there was
venue fight that was
squatting.
For the,
and to me, I think there's going to be a couple of backlashes here. I think the local fans wanted that particular fight at that venue also, and me and you are on Twitter a lot. Even the Mexican constituency, they are not just hopping off the bandwagon of Chavez, they are running like Usain Bolt for the entrances. And last time he was there, Doug, with the Brian Vera fight.
That was the first
September of 2013, one of the smallest crowds I can remember at that venue.
Yeah, well, out of sight, out of mind. Chavez has not been terribly active since he lost to Sergio Martinez, nor has he looked good. Mexican fans are only going to take so much. The magic of that Chavez name is only going to last so long. You still have to behave like a fighter. You still need to be in shape. You still need to fight formidable foes, and you still need to show up on fight night. And for that first Vera fight, they were already lukewarm on him because how many people were there at the venue, Steve?
2,500 to 3,000.
Yeah, how many do you think were like actually paid for that? I mean, it wasn't a huge turnout for somebody who's supposedly supposed to be one of the few stars and attraction left in boxing. And he came in overweight more than once. He basically came in as at least a cruiserweight.
They actually had a mystery
and most people
weight.
thought he lost that fight. Most people thought he lost that fight. He was booed by the folks who supposedly were there to see him. Now, he beat Brian Vera in a rematch, I believe in January or February of 2000.
Of last year.
Okay, so it was March of 2014. And he actually made super middleweight. Oh, good for you, Junior. But he hasn't fought since. He's been talking the talk. He hasn't been walking the walk. So I mean, honestly, I think this fight would have been better suited in Chicago, where Fonfara would bring his fans. And guess what? There are a lot of Mexican nationals who live in Chicago. This is a fight that they could have done at a ballpark and probably drawn a lot of fans. I don't think it's going to draw well in
They were not going to give
Carson.
Al Heyman was not going to give Andrzej Fonfara home canvas advantage. Ken, your thoughts on Chavez working with Joe Goosen? Okay.
Is he?
Okay.
No, look, I like
going to the gym a couple of days a week with Joe Goosen.
Listen, I do like Joe Goosen as a trainer. I think he's a very good boxing guy. I really do. But here's the problem with Chavez. It's like Michael Jordan's son. You know, it's like when you are the son of a godly guy like Julio, doesn't matter what you do, man. You're never going to live up to that. You're never going to be that. And the fact that he's a Mexican fighter, the Mexican fans, they don't want him to live up to it. You would think that they would want young Julio to be like his father.
I disagree.
I'm telling you.
I think he's let them down. I think he has let them down. And I think once he backed away from the Golovkin fight, Golovkin is actually a more popular Mexican fighter right now than Chavez Jr., in my opinion.
Well, and again, I think it's because of who he is. The fact that he is the son of Julio César Chávez, a guy who could walk on water. I mean, I was in Azteca Stadium when there were 136,000 screaming Mexicans there. So I've been able to feel what that is all about. And Bob Arum's done a great job with this guy. Bob Arum has done a magnificent job with young Julio.
And now they're in a lawsuit, by the way.
Yeah, so it's tough to live up to the
legacy. But don't you think there's a backlash? Because I've called him the Mexican Tommy Boy. He is the trust fund baby of boxing. He's entitled, and quite frankly, he's irresponsible.
He's always had a sense of entitlement, and that's to be expected by somebody who has grown up upper middle class or wealthy by Culiacan standards. But it's one thing to be entitled, it's another thing to kind of flaunt it.
Yeah.
And I think Chavez Jr. has flaunted it, and that doesn't go over well with boxing fans. It certainly doesn't go over well with working class Mexican and Mexican-American boxing fans.
That dirty drug test really hurt.
It did. It absolutely, because it let them know that he didn't really care. He wasn't going in there with the flag on his back and the honor of his father.
Training in his kitchen.
Training in his kitchen, and not dedicating himself 100% going into the biggest fight of his life. He let them down. And the fact that he almost had Martinez out in the 12th round, that just rubbed salt in the wound. It let them know, you know what, idiot? Had you actually trained and actually followed a game plan and actually listened to the trainer or even listened to your father, you may have stopped this dude, and you would be the real middleweight champion of the world, and we could have a lot of pride in you. And he let them down.
Or he could have just waited till the next fight because Sergio was a dead man.
Exactly.
And he fell anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'll say this. Julio can fight a little bit. He is a big, tough dude. He does have some ability. He can make for good fights. I actually do think Fonfara and Chavez will make for a good fight. They're both B-level fighters. They're both lower top 10, lower 15 contenders. They're big, strong guys who stick their nose in there, and they're going to go at it. It should be an entertaining fight, but I'm just thinking right now, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. has a lot to prove before he gets on Twitter and starts disparaging Triple G or any other elite fighter in boxing.
One note, this fight is at 172, and Fonfara is the more natural light heavyweight, so he does not have the size advantage. All right, well, that's it for this edition of the 10 Count. On behalf of Doug Fischer and Ken Miller, this is Steve Kim saying till the next round, goodbye, everybody.